The Mitsubishi Space Star, or Mirage as it is also called on other markets, in the facelift variant is today on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars with Thomas. So great that you joined us here today again, because life is not only about premium cars but also about budget cars, cars that a lot of people can actually really buy. This one starts about 10,000 euros in Germany, and let's see what car do we get for this price here. Maybe even cheaper in some of the other markets, but we're going to take a detailed look on the exterior, changes also here in the facelift interior, and of course the driving experience with a small engine, but there are a lot of surprises for this car, I can already promise you. Let's go with Autogefühl in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's start. So the main change in the facelift is the front grille. It is bigger, wider now, and looks definitely more modern, almost a little bit sporty, I would say, in this diamond pin structure. And of course really fitting to the brand of Mitsubishi, because the logo consists of 3 diamonds. You see the hood is split here to reduce insurance costs, that you don't have to replace the whole hood if there's maybe a small front crash. And the headlights also now form a better unit. You see, better placed together with the front grille. So overall, also with the chrome elements in this so-called top trim level here, which is the top trim level, I think a very nice design here now. So I think this main change of the facelift already played its design effect. 3.80 meters or 12.5 is the length of this small vehicle. And what is interesting, if you for example take as a reference point the Volkswagen Up as a micro car and the Volkswagen Polo as a small car in the segment, this one sits between from the length. And the interesting is it's still cheaper. So this is, one of the main arguments for this car. You get more length for the same or even less price. And let's see what the interior holds of that. It comes with 14-inch steel wheels at first, then goes up 15, and then 15-inch aluminum as a top trim, as we can see right here. And you see its form follows function, steep window line, not much playing around with the design right here. Just this wing here, which is the design element, and that's basically it. Also the rear, you see the wing appears here as well, of course, and a rather sporty design with a strong lower bumper. So really a sporty layout for such a small car, and I think overall pleasing from the exterior design. Or what's your opinion? Put me that one in the comments. Taillights, by the way, come with LED now, and in the front, in the top trim, you get by Xenon. And this is the key. Opening with a, let's say, old school mechanism here from the lower part. Hardly seen that these days. See, the doors are rather slim. This is the top trim level, and it's really called top, at least in Germany. So you got those glossy finish on the top here, automatic window levers just for the driver's side. Everything pretty simple also from the materials. You can see the storage space here. The interior, yeah, the floor mats are dirty these days in winter time. Sorry, that's the way it is. We know that from the other Mitsubishis, this typical style with the small chrome elements here at the steering wheel and the glossy element in the lower part, fabric seats, and they make a good impression because they have a material mix. In the middle part it's I wouldn't say it's microfiber, but it's a little bit cord style, I would call it. So it's a little bit softer in the middle part, and the outer part is a little bit more slippery. And you see also white contour stitches, so nice job with the seats in general. But you can always see it right here. Also the cockpit is more plain, basic. So if you compare it with other small cars in this segment, I mean, as a tall person, 1 meter 86 or 6'1", well, is it still tall today? Maybe 20 years ago, but let's say not small person. It gets really tricky. So just little headroom left, and also if I, just don't raise my spine. So it's not for the tallest people for sure. However, if you're a little bit small, then you sit relatively upright because the seats are not that low, and also the sill of the doors is not that high. So you have a good overview, that's for sure. That's, I think, one of the most important aspects, that you have a good overview to all of the sides. The seat here, it has a turning knob, and I can raise the lower seating area with it, the lower back seating area. I can also put it lower, but then it would, get rather uncomfortable, so I would just leave it like that, and manual to the front and back, and then also the rear part of the seat. And the steering wheel can also be changed, but only in the height like this, and you see it also, it just falls down. That's a cheap solution, but again, this car is supposed to remain cheap, and then you can also not be expensive in any part. Cockpit overview. Same as I said, it's kept rather simple, plain materials, and those glossy black surfaces are very often used at Mitsubishi. They look good at first, but you can see you have to clean them quite regularly because they really collect a lot of dust. If you have freshly cleaned them with a microfiber towel or something, they look good. And also if they didn't collect any scratches yet, but that can happen quite easily. What I find good is that we don't see an infotainment system here. Why? Finally, manufacturer decided not to give us a top extra trim level. So this is also a way you can save money and don't pick a big infotainment system here. You can pick one, 6.5 touchscreen that is available now. And then you can also connect your phone via Bluetooth and have a bigger view, also a GPS screen. Here the simple version. And as we always give you information what is optional and what is from serial production, that is very important to us. Here we can mention you can get it that way and save money, but you can also get the GPS one. Then there are a lot of beeping sounds. You already heard it right now as I put on the infotainment screen. Steering wheel, when it's compact, is very soft to use, and USB functions can then also be picked up with the buttons right here at the steering wheel, for example. And I mean, here it, for example, also says that you can connect the USB port, but DAB radio at least available. But the thing is, we have not found the USB port, at least not in this version. I'm not sure. Do you know the USB port? Then tell us. Yeah, the glove box just falls down, but I think it offers you reasonable space. That's good, and above that another storage space, and also in the lower part there's a lot to put stuff in there, so that's, I think, on the good side. Instruments really big, and I think an attractive way of putting them. Just a small digital screen. You can get the consumption lower. We had some acceleration tests now. The airport got a little bit higher, but that can also be lower. But again, not many function. So this is, very complicated. So I guess, if you have the bigger screen, that makes more sense to connect your phone. You see, it seems to be the only solution to connect the phone via the voice commands, and it does obviously work. But it seems to be very complicated. Let's see if we can play some music here. No, that doesn't work here yet. Maybe because still importing the phone stuff. We can. It seems to be connected.
Das Telefonbuch wurde importiert.
Okay.
Rückkehr ins Hauptmenü.
Let's see. It works now.
Was möchten Sie importieren?
No.
Einen Einzel...
No, it seems to work with the sound, does it? Ah, there it is. So it is even possible to connect your phone here via Bluetooth, but very complicated. So it does work. If you have to do it once, then maybe it's worth to take the time. Otherwise, easier with the bigger infotainment screen. So in the lower area, some storage spaces, for example, also for the key. And then there's seat heating that is available in the top trim level and the beverage holders. And this is the CVT stick. So we have reverse gear, neutral, D and DS. And L, what's that all about? We will explain you that one when we drive the car. Let's get in the rear, and this is very important. What about the package? So 3.80 meters was the length, and I mean, for a small car, it's a relatively good result. I do hit the front seat with my knees, but I mean, it's still a short car. We are below 4 meters, and the back of the seat is, on purpose soft. I mean, yeah, and that way the driver in the front would not even feel it. Only if I go a little bit further, then I can argue the driver in front of me. It's very interesting part. I think also, if you have kids in the rear. Headroom wise, you see the car is like a bulb a little bit. And so on the side, I do hit the seating with my head. Other than that, you sit relatively upright here. If you're, below 180 in meters or below 6 foot, that would work pretty well then. There are also fixations here for child seats on the outer seats, on the lower part. Don't see any additional fixation on the upper part though, so that's not really available. You see here a 2/3, 1/3 split basically between the seats, and you can flip the seats like this already here. And I mean, we've already, let's see if we can also put the bench or so higher, but that's maybe just a little bit loose. You see also a little bit more about the build quality here. So pretty basic here also in the rear, but I think the package is acceptable. Small car, small trunk. You can see the size right here. Then I can also show you how you can flip the seats. And there are those straps at the back side of the seats here and also there. Right here, you have to pull them, then you can also, there's the top tether, interesting. So you can read it here, top tether. So here's another fixation for the child seat, the third fixation to also fix it from the top side. And then it's also interesting is the boot split, because here you can put smaller things to have, more order in the trunk. Let's see what's beneath here. Very interesting here today. Some emergency equipment and stuff. Seems like you could also optionally fit a replacement tire right here if you like. So they have thought about this solution that you then, when you put it on, have an even surface to the rear seats. Engines, 3-cylinder power all the way. Oh wow, that cover has seen better times already. Maybe it's, from the flowers and stuff, maybe collecting that one. I'm sure that's the reason. Then you see here 1, 2, 3 cylinders, and well, it's basically enough for a small car. 1 liter of displacement with 71, or as we see here, 1.2 liter with 80 horsepower, and I would recommend this engine. The good thing is it's always naturally aspirated, and we hardly find that, especially with the German manufacturers. So it's an advantage here because there's no turbo that could possibly break, and I also prefer the sound of the naturally aspirated engines. Available with a manual gearbox or also with the continuously variable transmission, CVT, as we have here in our test vehicle today. Let's see how that one performs. So, the driving part starts right now. And I said earlier, there are 2 engines available, 1 liter and 1.2 liter. This one is the bigger one we are driving, so not 71, but 80 horsepower. really fun to drive, is 3-cylinder and also still a naturally aspirated engine. So that's something special you don't find that often anymore today. And well, we can test it out. By the way, it's very interesting. When I go in this L mode, I really have more resistance from the engine, and this S mode here, then the RPMs go higher. So interestingly, we also have some driving modes in this car, and the reason for that is that we have the CVT here, the continuously variable transmission. And you know, if you don't have any choice and just stuck in this automatic transmission without any gears, you know, that might leave you with some problems that is then solved with the driving modes. For example, if you're going downhill and want to use the engine brake, go in this L mode, and you hear the RPMs go higher, more engine brake is used. I don't have any shifting pedals here, so I couldn't induce it by that. So this is the reason for the L mode. And then usually we just stay in normal D mode, and if we want a little bit higher RPMs, then we go into this DS mode. And we also hear it, so we get a little bit better acceleration because the RPMs are put higher. But I would say for everyday driving life, this might get rather a little bit annoying. I mean, you get a little bit better drive, but I would prefer to just D mode. It's not a racing car. So now I am in the normal driving mode, and I would really focus on that basically. So this is a small car, we've shown you that, and you also do feel that while driving. Has the advantages if you leave a basement garage, for example, or searching for a parking lot. It's so easy to find one. We don't have a rear camera here, obviously, as we've also told you, and we do not need one. We can very well see where the car is ending. Also, as all the windows are rather steep, there's a good overview provided in the Mitsubishi Space Star for sure. Although, you know, when you're a little bit taller like me, I feel also when driving, I mean, I'm almost sitting in the ceiling, literally, if I would, you know, put my spine all upright. So I'm rather a little bit lower myself in the car, that I can still see through the front windscreen. So I feel that while driving the car, it's not the most suitable small car for tall drivers in the front. Although, I mean, there's basically enough space around me, that's fine. Sound insulation wise, I already hear it right now. It's quite noisy in here. We will soon experience more of that when we go on the motorway with the car, and we also drive faster. Here at the moment about 50 kilometers an hour. What you also hear is some bumps in the road, and it's indeed getting rather bumpy from the suspension. However, you always have to bear in mind, this is a budget car, so you buy it mainly to get a car that is cheap. And maybe you also cannot expect that much, because you also pay less than with the competitors, for example. Steering wheel wise, it feels a little bit dead, especially in the first angle. So I don't have a really natural feeling, and the car is also tilting to the right and the left when I'm doing slalom stuff. So this is really rather sad that the suspension is a little bit softer, that you have more comfort in city driving. So not much agility to expect here. So good thing is really the good overview and the small size that you can get along very well everywhere. Hitting the brakes, it could also be useful if they react a little bit fast. You really have to hammer them that something is happening. However, driving with the CVT, I mean, it's optional. You just basically get it as a manual drive. The question is the extra price worth it? So, yeah, I mean, you want to have a cheap car and want to keep the price low. Do you pick so many extras? I'm not so sure about that. But besides that, the CVT does a good job, and I think it's suitable for such a small car as well, because you're not racing it, as I said. So you're driving rather calmly and staying in same RPM levels, and then this CVT can help you relax a little bit more. RPM's not going so high up in the normal driving mode. No shifting transitions, so everything is also rather smooth. depending on when you're braking or accelerating, is the same. And I think that's really good. That's a good thing. So now, for example, when we're going down, I can use this L mode again. Then I, for example, don't have to step on the brakes. Oh, it's rather really powerful. So even reducing speed a little bit, though going downhill. Slowly, I mean, the traffic light is red anyway, and then I can also help with the brakes. So it's good that we have this choice. So overall, I would prefer this car with the CVT. It's definitely more relaxing to ride. And as I said, I think it's good that they use this technology in here. It fits to the car. It does not fit to a car where you really hammer the throttle and then have this high RPMs all the time. So what would you say when we do the acceleration on the motorway? Shall we do it in normal driving mode or in the DS mode? Michelle will represent our viewers for today. DS or D mode? D mode? Normal mode? Okay, so it's then sport mode, DS mode. Okay, so yeah. So you want the DS mode, the sport mode, but expect some really high RPMs for that one, for sure. But then when we're on the motorway, I can also show you later again what's really the difference, also sound-wise, when we accelerate. So I think that the most crucial thing about this car is that it is less in the price than the competitors, but still bigger. I told you initially that this car is really between. For example, if you take the Volkswagen Up and the Volkswagen Polo, lengthwise, this one here is in between those two, but it's cheaper basically. So you get more storage space for less price. At least if you consider just the list prices. But then motorway is starting now. Last traffic light. In the lower RPM regions, the engine doesn't sound that bad. It's really like So we can also see how the car performs uphill. Let's see what. So now 60 to DS mode and 60 to 100. I had to cancel it at 80 because this guy in front of me was too lazy, but now then 80 to 100 now. That was it. Yeah, I mean, the car takes a while. It does, definitely. So, but you have to live with that, and you already hear it already at 100 kilometers an hour. Going back to the D mode now. It's getting rather noisy in here, so that's for sure one of the disadvantages. And also the car is not that stable from suspension. You see, when I just move the steering wheels, wobbles a little bit around. However, there's a good overview also to the side because the door sill is relatively low. A lot of the new small cars also tend to have so small windows for design purposes, and then you don't have a good overview left. So, but here they really thought, okay, let's keep it with a modern design with the front, and then the driver is not distracted on the inside. I also have a cruise control, a pretty basic one I can set here at the steering wheel. It works, keeping the speed at 100. Now let's get off the motorway again. Let's also see how the car performs then when we drive off the motorway in a little bit faster corner. Do I have to save the car in some way? Racing, whoa! So that got a little bit sketchy. So, when the suspension is wobbling a little bit, and it's also a little colder temperatures. Not that recommendable to do such stuff with the car. But I mean, I'm here to test that for you. Better it's safer when I do it than 100,000 other Mitsubishi Space Star buyers do that. So Now we're getting to our countryside parts. Set against cruise control. Let's keep it at about 50, something like that. Oh, turning indicator sound is rather subtle. I like that. Some of the small cars have really cheap turning indicator sounds. We don't like that, but this one here really does a good job. So CVT is holding it relatively stable, about just above 1000 RPMs. But that's funny. I have it now on just above 50 kilometers, like 53, something like that. It's pretty stable. I mean, just trying to feel that. I mean, of course, the surface is changing a little bit. But here again, it proves if you're driving rather slowly and without harsh maneuvers, this CVT can really help you relax in the car. So there are a lot of guys who really say this is great transmission. Others don't like it. I think it always really depends on the car, for sure. So, I think we delivered you a lot of insight here for driving in the Mitsubishi Space Star. Maybe as a last comment about the engine, which one shall you go for? Of course, the 1.2 liter is more expensive. It's good that they offer a 3-cylinder without a turbo. That's, I think, one of the crucial points of the car, and also a reason to go for it, because those ones here are really supposed to last very long. There's no turbo that can possibly break. The 3-cylinder does work. I mean, it's okay for the car. The 1-liter displacement with 71 horsepower, if you're just driving in the city, that might work. If you also tend to take the car on 100 kilometer speed autobahn rides, then better go for this one here, the 1.2 liter. Then you have a little bit more power. I mean, it's surely not overpowered, but I think this engine here does suit to the car, so I would rather not go for the 1-liter one. And pick this one here, and then maybe enjoy also the low frequency sound of a naturally aspirated engine here, even in a small car. We had a similar experience with the Honda Jazz, or Honda Fit as it's called on other markets, and this also worked pretty well with the smaller naturally aspirated engines. And in those days where we get turbos and turbos and turbos and turbos and less displacement, it's also nice to find such an engine here. And I mean, in such a small car, also 3 cylinders are just fine for sure. And maybe last remark to the steering wheel. Of course, when it's light, that helps you when parking the car. So it's relatively easy to ease the car around. And then again, you have to think about, it's not the focus of this car to be anything of sporty. So I think you can also say it's okay when the steering wheel is just light, because that might have more advantages than when parking the car, for example. And the very last remark for today's driving part is the consumption, because this one is very relevant for a small car. So those naturally aspirated engines are good in the consumption, basically. And what we have here today is about 5 liters on 100 kilometers. And those small turbo engines, they often consume really way more, sometimes to an unacceptable level. And so also with a long-term fuel consumption, you definitely have a good choice with this car. This is, I think, another crucial point that would be on the pro list for sure. And now to our today's conclusion, Mitsubishi Space Star or Mitsubishi Mirage. So this facelift has mainly brought this new face in the front. I think that's really a good choice. The car overall, for a small car, looks very sporty. It's pleasing. Less pleasing is the interior. I think they have to work on the build quality there. Even if they want to keep the cost low, there are better solutions nowadays. You can get the new infotainment system for that car as well, where you have an infotainment screen. And I mean, it's totally okay that we have a test vehicle where we didn't have that feature today, because I'm really also, always happy that we don't have the most expensive test vehicle, as it kind of happens quite a lot of times. it's not our fault really. The package is basically quite good. I mean, considering the length, you can put reasonable stuff in there. That's also for sure, you know, a good argument for the car. Driving wise, you know, we didn't have the best performance. It's, you know, not the best suspension to filter out bumps. At the same time, it's not stiff, but a little bit, you know, wobbly, and steering wheel feels a little bit dead. Not that good sound insulation. So I think the driving part is, I think, the weakest part of this car. Their other competitors are also a little bit better. So I think I could give you a good insight on this car here today. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave me your comments, and of course, always interested if you own a Space Star. By the way, you know, maybe a Space Star was at Mitsubishi earlier, it was a huge van. Nowadays they repicked the name for being a small car. And give us your experience with the car if you own one, or if you maybe plan to buy one of those, or maybe one of the competitors. Thank you very much for watching Autogefühl again, and join us also next time.